you doing?
Good morning.
Okay, I know how you're doing. You just answered that.
You like breathing hard.
I had problems with the copier and the printer and everything, so it was like, so. All right. Well, I don't have formal remarks this year or a plant hidden on the
That's
floor,
all right.
so
We
thank
have-
you.
We have a plan.
We just want to always start with, we do appreciate the collaborative and collegiality of the relationship that we have. I also think if any year is an example of why we should be doing interest-based bargaining, by God, it's this year, with the changes in the salary schedule and other issues we've come up with. But I think we've got some good proposals, some good ideas, and we're ready to go. What we'd like to do with your, not permission, but indulgence, thank you, is we'd like to go through all of our non-financial proposals first, talk about them, then caucus, come back, and then get those done and out of the way, and then hit the financials.
I love your encouraging, positive attitude there. Get these done and out of the way.
Yeah.
Move on to financial.
I think so.
You're going to
So-
keep sticking that thing in my face, aren't you? All right. So, and by the way, I love the color of your binder.
Oh,
You are never going to lose that.
no. I usually do the proposals on this color green, but that was one of the issues I had today. So
Okay, well,
you're not getting green,
Feel
you're not
free.
getting neon green, but you're getting green. So I wanted to put our proposals on a different color paper just because
thank you.
by the time, sometimes by the end of the night, we have a whole tree between all of us. So this is our first proposal, and this would be a preamble that would go in the beginning of the negotiated agreement. Right now, we just have the recognition of negotiations. And I want to start off by saying that starting with the cell phone policy, the proposed cell phone policy, what I wanted to do was to see where Pocatello is in relation to schools that are our size. So I didn't go looking in any negotiated agreements of any, so what I did was I called the State Department and I said, where can I find the list of school districts by student population? Somewhere on the website. Could you be more specific? So he just sent me the spreadsheet. I know. So I took Pocatello and then I went 2 districts above us and 2 districts below us. And then I took or not I, but we, because it was a team effort, we took the districts that are in our region, but the ones that are bigger than, 1 or 2 schools. So, and we saw that several of the other districts had this kind of preamble in their negotiated agreement. And I can say that, at least on our part, we believe that we have an excellent relationship with the school district, with the personnel. When I'm at meetings or at Summer Institute and someone asks me a question, and I'm like, well, let me just text our HR or our director of special ed, and they just sit there like, you have their phone number? And I'm like, yeah, and they will answer you? Well, yeah. So we love that, but I'm not going to be here forever, and you guys aren't going to be here forever. So even though my students did ask me yesterday if I was alive during Henry VIII, I am not 500 years old. Knock it off.
It was a teaching moment.
Well, I think I need to color my hair is what is going to happen. So we came up with this kind of preamble, and it just recognizes that both parties recognize that a high-quality public education system is essential, and that we want to work for collegial partnership that values communication, mutual respect, and joint efforts. And we have certainly felt that a great deal, especially this year. And we just want to kind of have that, you know, in the negotiated agreement for the future. So any questions?
I don't have any. Do you have any questions? All right.
All right, so proposal number 2. I'll just do it this way. So this is one we brought last year, but we also found some spelling errors. So if you look in the first paragraph, it's not tenants like in an apartment building, but tenants like in beliefs. This is from, this is the academic responsibility and instruction of potentially controversial matters. And really what we're just asking is the policy that is in 3302, which is in our policy, 3304, excuse me, 3304, to the 2 paragraphs that deal with this situation when parents object to the material or the standards, that it comes with, the policy says the parent has to come up with the alternate activity. And the reason why it's important to us that this be in the negotiated agreement is because we know that policies can be changed with just 3 readings of the board. Additionally, this is one I have dealt with frequently where I've had to explain it to admins and other people that it is not the teacher's responsibility to come up with an alternate activity if the parent doesn't want them to, let's say, read a particular book in a high school class, or we had one case where an elementary student's parents did not want her or the child to learn about symbolism, like patriotic symbols. And so if we had it in the negotiated agreement and not in policy only, then it is more readily available to everyone to understand, to know what is happening, and it protects those teachers from having to come up with these other activities. Additionally, in the negotiated agreement policy, it mentions Board Policy and Procedure 6405 provides a system to review complaints about instructional materials used in the classroom. That is not correct. That policy deals only with the media center. We do not have a policy that deals with parents. Well, I think 3304 might deal with parents wanting to look at instructional materials, but policy 6405 is media center instructional materials, and then policy 6405P is another part of that for selection and review and materials and equipment.
Okay. Let's go back and read the policies. I do envision we will have some discussion regarding this policy coming both from you and from us. Or
Okay.
on this proposal.
Okay,
Perfect.
that's what we want. We
Yeah,
want
absolutely.
discussion, and, you know, that's what we feel negotiations are.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Proposal number 3, we would like to add some wording to, sorry, I'm gonna do that every single time. Sorry, people at home. This is to add some language to the special education teachers will be guaranteed 1 paperwork day each month that is free of duties and meetings. That's where it ended before. We would like to add, and may be in the location of the teacher's choosing. Now, if we're gonna go back to that one person that was supposed to be doing their IEP at home and was out at Fort Hall, at the bingo hall or whatever, you know, we can always pull up instances from the past. But the issue is that these teachers are in many cases, they're being required to work in their school. So where can they work? In most cases, the only room available is either the teacher's workroom or the library. And once kids, other teachers or admins see them in the building, their workday goes out the window. The kids come in, teachers see them. If I'm having a problem with Johnny and he's on your caseload and you're in the counseling center or the teacher's lounge, and I know you're there, chances are I'm gonna come get you, or the admin. So they are not getting the opportunity to get this work done. And a lot of the special ed teachers, say, if I could work from home, my kids are in school, I can put my dog outside, I can sit and get this done. And so we'd like to add that. And then, if someone's not doing their job, you will never hear me say, don't hold them accountable. So if someone says, I'm gonna work at home, and then their IEPs aren't done, then that's an administrative decision to have some consequences. So I'm not saying this is a free, go out on the town, but, give them the opportunity and treat them as the professionals that they are.
I don't have any questions. You're
Okay.
explaining well.
All right.
Don't take that as a bad thing.
I wish you guys were in my classroom, because I can go over that well there.
Henry the Iron.
Yeah. Henry VIII. Okay, this would be a new proposal. So I'll give you a chance to read it before I start talking about it. So this would add a bullet point under contract days and workday length, and it would, any snow day unused at the start of spring break would become a paid scheduled mental health day on either a Monday or a Friday through the end of the year, 2-day maximum. The dates for these days will be released at the beginning of spring break. And I'm hesitant to say, but this was designed by some members with some administrative input. And I'm only hesitant to say that because in past negotiations, I've heard from admins who have said, hey, could you address this or address that? They get pushed back on suggesting things for negotiations, and I don't want that to happen. But this is a concern. And I just happened to pull Irving's numbers for substitutes just because I was talking to someone and they're like, well, I can pull, get that. And then my daughters work in District 93, and I attached the flyer that they got. They sent this out April 23rd to the entire staff, the whole district, all of the parents, all of their methods of communication. And let me tell you, my daughter was both of them were quite excited to get this. And it's just for those of you in the audience, it's District 93 gave, as a teacher staff appreciation day, gave them this Friday off and as a paid holiday. And so, that's.
And I do have a question, it's just
Yeah.
for clarity.
Yeah.
So are you envisioning that the school district would pick a Monday or Friday and everybody is off that Monday or Friday, not an individual teacher picking an individual
Right.
Monday or
No,
Friday?
no.
Okay.
Yes, that
Okay.
one. The district picking the day.
District picks a
I
day
never
and
even
it's,
thought of,
okay.
no. That was
Well,
our
and that's why I
intent.
wanted to, that's
So
the
if
intent.
we need to
Okay.
add that wording, I would never put that on you guys.
Because it doesn't, because that doesn't change the sub issue,
No.
so I was like, I don't think that's what they intended,
No.
but I want to make sure I'm clear.
Just think of it like a snow day without
Yeah.
the snow.
Yeah. Although my first year in Idaho, it snowed in July, so who can tell?
You and I both, I bet it was the
Yeah.
same year.
Probably. I
was
thought,
like, where did I move to?
that's what I thought. I'm from Georgia.
And the
What
whole,
heck?
and the whole winter was
We don't
just
even
snowy.
get snow in the winter in Georgia.
Okay,
so.
number 5.
Number 5, this is kind of one you might remember from last year. And, sorry, Mike.
We're good.
Last year, we discussed it, and I had notes that we would talk about it, and we never did. This is high school parent-teacher conference hours. In the event high schools do not utilize parent-teacher conference hours, those hours will be used for registration, elective fairs, FAFSA, other academic events. I think it was this last year, or maybe it was last year, that the high school, one of the high schools, that the staff was in PD in the library, and for some reason a message had gone out to parents that they were for parent-teacher conferences, and they had parents walking around the building wondering where the staff was. So, and then sometimes, we've talked about why do the high school teachers need to have more PD than anybody else when we're in parent-teacher conferences. So then they have these other nights, like I know when my son and daughter were coming up, they went to the 9th grade orientation and elective fair nights, and that's what decided which high school they wanted to go to at the time, because there was such excitement, and this would kind of switch those hours out. All right. This is our
We're
last.
killing green trees.
Not as many as, I could have made more.
That's
I could have
fair.
done more
Okay, that's
proposals.
fair.
All right. Okay, Brenda, this is the sick
I know
leave
what's
bank.
coming. Yeah, I do. I understand sick leave bank has had some issues.
Well, and this is why I also said that this would have been a perfect year to be working like on the, what is it called? Thank you. I was thinking issue-based, interest-based, to be able to work on this stuff, because my intent was just to come in and say, we got to review this. Can we agree to reopen negotiations just for the sick leave bank? And Brenda replied, why does it need to be in the negotiated agreement? And I was like, well, I don't know. So I found out and was told, don't ever take anything out of the negotiated agreement. So,
That same person didn't tell you the negotiated agreement's currently a blank piece of paper. But
well, yeah, so I met with a lot of people. We had my region director, she had other region directors. We had our lawyer look at it, not for any reason but just, what can we do? It's so long and so verbose, and it's so just,
they're
So-
typically procedurally intensive, I agree.
Right.
Yep.
So again, what I did was I looked at negotiated agreements for sick leave bank stuff, and this is the only time I used Boise, just because they had something specific to what we were looking at. So, and a lot of the other districts' language was very, just kind of, this is how it's set up, and then the sick leave bank guide makes the guidelines and has the forms, and you're there. So, this was the issue. So,
It's not on green.
no, because this is when I ran out, and I was like, I am not walking downstairs
Okay.
again.
Just giving you hearts, and now she's killing white trees.
Okay. So, in the negotiated agreement,
This is the current
This
one.
is the current language, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's at the back.
My eyes are
Sorry.
bad, so I
No,
can't
sorry.
see anyway.
This is the appendix.
Appendix A, yep.
Appendix A. And one of the issues was, we were thinking, why is it in the appendix? Let's just put it all in 4.2. And so I did that. I kind of put all this in 4.2. And then I wanted to, then I read, it says they are to be included in the district's pay manual and are not subject to negotiation. So then I went to the pay manual. It's the same form, but it says changes to these guidelines must be approved by the PEA, Executive Board, and the admin of School District 25. So to me, that's what we're doing now. And so then I called Caitlin again, and so we didn't come up with a real good answer on whether or not some of the changes we want to put in the sick leave bank guidelines can be done
Was
at
it-
negotiations, or it has to be done at a board meeting.
Yep,
And so,
because of the line in the pay manual.
right.
Right.
Well, it's not in the pay manual, it's only on the addendum or the appendix that's in the negotiated agreement. But our feeling is, if we create the guidelines in the negotiated agreement, then you can't have other guidelines out there that contradict
You change the
or
guidelines in the agreement.
change,
Yep.
or we can't change those other guidelines. Does that make?
No, I know where you are.
Okay.
Yep, I get what you're saying.
So, okay, so I have two, stop laughing.
She's probably spent a whole lot of time on this.
I-
and She's frustrated with
I
it, I get it.
Look, Brenda and I, we have had nightmares about this, and for anyone listening who's on the sick leave bank committee or has been, it's not
It's not
it's not
personal.
them,
Yeah.
it's not personal, this was not brought to our attention until recently. And then when we all looked at it, it was like, my heck, this is like, what? So I have two different proposals, okay? Depending on whether or not we can change something that's in the pay manual guidelines. So, does that make sense? Now, I didn't copy on that one in the negotiated agreement, I didn't copy the second page. I just copied the first page because
All
it
right, we have
was, it's the same thing, just that one paragraph. So, okay, so
Version 1, version 2?
this is version 1, going on the assumption that we can change the language that's in the pay manual and in the appendix of the negotiated agreement. Okay, so. All right,
And I'm assuming version 2 then is assuming we can't.
right.
Okay.
So, and I made version 2, I called it 6A, and I put it on blue paper, so you could tell the difference. And then, just because I'm that obsessive, I made a clean copy with all the subtractions taken out, so you could just read what it would read, and I did one for each version.
She's not been really, yeah.
So that's just who I am.
I'm gathering that this issue has consumed a great deal of your time and energy and mental.
Yes. But we recognize the necessity of the sick leave bank. We want to, preserve the days. We don't want to, go out and just give everyone days. But we also need to acknowledge that people have needs that go beyond, and that's why it was created. And I know that none of us here were here when it was initially added to the
I've always
negotiated
assumed
agreement.
it was 1993 with that strange date that was,
Yeah, I wanted to take that out, but I didn't know if I should or not, so, because
I don't think
We don't have
anybody.
that many people.
I know,
But 30, whatever.
well, I started teaching in the 90s, so anyways,
No,
you
yeah,
guys.
I agree. Nobody knows where that came from or what
Yeah.
impact that has, but probably the one person it impacts does.
Right,
Okay.
and so, but I understand that getting it into the negotiated agreement at the time was quite
Probably important, yeah.
yeah, quite a deal. So what I'd like to do, so let me just, what we did, I always say but it's not just me, it's a team effort, but, we took out language that we thought was redundant, was repeated in several places. We added some language to maybe collapse paragraphs into one sentence.
Subsection C, yeah.
Yeah. And then if you go to the D, application for benefits, I think it's on the third page, we added some bullet points. Okay, so the first one that's added is, are we good? Yeah, okay. The first one we added is pregnancy, childbirth will be treated as any illness or injury. And that goes back to, that's the issue that I was like, well, I'll have to, because in the pay manual, it says, for maternity request, days requested beyond 6 calendar weeks from the birth, regardless of delivery method, will be denied. Well, that was one of the situations we had this year's. We had someone who gave birth, had to have an emergency C-section, and got an infection, needed extra days, but because it was from birth, it was denied, so she didn't get the extra days to recover from the infection. And so that is what I looked at in all of the other sick leave banks, and I can tell you who I looked at. Only one district, Idaho Falls proper, 91, they were the only district that I found that had a chart of like, this is how many, like,
Maximum days per,
prescriptive
yeah.
dates.
Yep.
But if you need to request more, so like it said, vaginal birth and maternal bonding, 6 weeks. C-section and maternal bonding, 8 weeks. A hysterectomy, 8 weeks. Well, I had a hysterectomy and I didn't need 8 weeks. But I had a C-section with twins and I could have used 16 weeks to recover from that sucker, but. And they were in the summer, so I didn't get anything.
You didn't
So-
plan that well.
Sometimes things aren't planned.
She just shared with us.
So, the only other one that I found that had anything, restrictive about, childbirth was Soda Springs. Does not allow, childbirth in their sick leave bank. So,
I've seen it before.
yeah.
I don't know. I think
So that was the one we added. Then the next bullet point was another issue that we had this year. If an applicant has been granted days to provide primary care for a family member and the family member dies, the applicant will notify the chairperson of the sick leave bank and days granted will end on the date of death. The applicant will then be using his or her own sick leave days per the negotiated agreement.
Okay, by that sentence, that leads me to believe that they're not required to exhaust their sick leave days before they can use the sick leave bank?
No, what we do is they have to use 10 consecutive days of their own leave, and then the sick leave bank kicks in if they've made the proper application, and they get 4 days from the sick leave bank, and they have to give 1.
Okay.
I know, I have seen it
Interesting.
done
Yep.
all kind of ways.
All kind of ways, yep. It just strikes me as odd that, and I don't mean this negatively, but I'll just say it. You're using somebody else's sick leave before you use your own. Yes, it's donated days, yes, it's for an
Right.
intended purpose, it just kind of strikes me as different.
But you have to use 10, yeah, you used to have to exhaust all of your days plus give up 2 days of pay to use the sick
And
leave
I've seen
bank.
that before, yeah.
So,
Okay, but
Okay.
that's what that one is, okay.
yeah. So then the next bullet point we added was the employee will be notified of the decision of the sick leave bank by an unofficial email, followed by the official notification by a certified letter with the total number of days granted, if approved, or the reasons for a denial. This notification of approval or denial will be sent to each applicant for each application or submission of request for additional days. And I have already had a email set up for the sick leave bank. So they can email just the sick leave bank, so they don't have to email a particular person, like remember who the chair is. Okay, so,
Could change, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
okay, so then,
This looks like a big one with a lot cut out. This next one, it's,
well, this one, if you read it, it's like, yeah. So we took out, if additional days are required by the member in order to recuperate, additional days may be requested by notifying the committee. Well, we put that in the next line, but this is what was confusing. If the days requested fall within dates contained in the medical provider's statement submitted with the application, the request will be considered as part of the original application. Well, if I,
know what that means, but it doesn't say it. Yeah.
yeah, and then if the days requested fall beyond the dates contained in the original medical provider statement, an amended application and new doctor statement will be required. So we took that part out, and we just added that second part. If additional days are required by the member in order to recuperate, an amended application and new doctor statement will be required.
So you want a new doctor's statement, even if the original one covered those dates?
No,
Hypothetic-
because if I put in an application for 20 days, and by day 16, I am nowhere near ready to come back, then I know I'm gonna go to my doctor or call my doctor and say, I am not ready to go back. Will you please write me a note for 5 more days? But if on day 17, let me see, hold on, I lost my own train of thought on that one.
I'll go where I was going then. So say
You,
say your doctor's note says you're gonna be out 30 days. The
Right.
bank gave you 20.
yes,
So you're then coming in and asking for additional days. That original doctor's note covers the 10 days already. Are you saying that you want a new note from the doctor to cover those 10 days, or with the
Yes.
original? Okay.
yeah. If it's any new days that weren't mentioned in the
granted.
original note, then yes.
Okay. I think. We'll come back. It's okay.
This is why.
I know, this is the procedural nightmare
Yeah.
associated with this. I totally understand.
So, okay. And then on the next page, it's the first, can we change comprised to composed? Because every time I typed it, the little thing goes, do you mean composed? And I was like, well, kind of, yeah. So anyways, but
So
then
it's supposed to be what?
comprised is what's in the
You want it
negotiated
composed.
agreement.
Okay,
But,
I don't
I
care.
mean, it's not a biggie, but,
I don't think we're gonna die on that hill.
no,
There's
I
that,
wouldn't
so,
either.
okay.
So then, under appeals, we just added a few things. Receipt of the certified letter, receipt of a certified letter, so
Got lots of
that,
certified letters going on here, yep.
okay? And then that's it on that one. Well, then they can't come back and say, well, I didn't get your decision.
Because you sent it in an email as an unofficial.
I'm just saying, that, you know.
Just
Right now,
I'm gonna ask
Crossing
another
Ts,
practical
dotting Is.
question too. Who's
Well-
paying for all the certified letters?
the district. But we pay for all the supplies for the sick leave bank. In fact, I just went and bought a bunch of stuff today. But I have the receipt.
You have my receipt, thank you.
I was gonna say something, but, oh, because before, they did not get an email. That's what we wanted to add, was you would get an email, and we wanted to add, you get an email that's kind of unofficial because you get it right then. What was happening is the sick leave bank only meets twice a month. I put in my application, I'm home, they meet, then it takes the payroll a day or two to put the days in Skyward or go in and make the changes, and then they send the letters. Then it takes that time to get to the person. In the meantime, I've had 15 calls from the person saying, do you know if my days have been approved? And so we thought about taking out the certified letter, but then we thought, well, it's in there maybe as a CYA. So we left it in, but we added that you would get an email that's kind of an unofficial, would say, this is an unofficial, as your official certified letter will be coming. So if they don't sign for it, then they can't come back and want an appeal or anything like that.
I get where C is duplicative, I get that. There's a lot of duplication there. I just want some clarification on A on page 1.
Okay?
We've changed the definition of when the sick leave bank is applicable.
Oh, shoot. Sorry, I just saw a typo, sorry.
It's okay, where's the typo?
Down as of
Oh, I
September.
got that circled already. Okay,
Yeah,
we're good. We got
sorry.
a 6 in there, it's okay. So we're changing the definition of what illness is covered, because in B, we just have one, illness of the employee, but what we struck out was the types of illness that could not be covered. Do I have that right? So, because we couldn't use it for in and out absences, elective medical procedures, or medical care that could or should have been scheduled during non-contracted time. So that's now covered under sick leave bank.
Well, we can,
I'm just asking.
yeah.
Is that the intention was to expand coverage, basically?
No, the intention was just to not be so darn wordy.
Okay,
So,
okay.
I would think we
Yeah.
need to leave that.
then that's,
Well, or it could be moved down into B. I get what you're saying.
Okay.
this table is so squeaky.
Grab it,
Sorry.
yeah.
Well, and I'll be honest, I had trouble moving that one up because I kept getting stuck on the cord, so goodness knows what, I did to it. I think we worked on immediate family before, okay. Yep, I know we did. I know that language.
I worry about taking out that bottom one too, Mary Ann.
And
Which
that's what I'm
bottom
looking
one?
at.
All
On-
other sick leave requests may be approved for illnesses of relatives not listed above. Such leave would be deducted from the employee's own accumulated sick leave and will not be eligible for sick leave bank benefits.
I think we're missing.
Yeah, there, help me, although other sick leave requests may be approved for illnesses.
Do you have a
What do you
different,
mean, other sick leave requests?
I don't know, because I didn't write this
so
one.
this was just language that was.
This was language that was in there,
We-
so.
So we would need to look at the definition of sick leave and who it
Yeah.
covers versus sick leave bank and make sure that they're consistent. And if they're consistent,
Well,
this
we
paragraph
use,
doesn't matter.
yeah, we look, because it's the sick leave, oh, no, that's the the employee,
Right.
yeah, sorry.
Okay, and we've changed the eligibility, so it's just the first year, the September 30th day is no longer important. I'll be honest, school starts earlier than this probably
Yeah.
when it was written. I understand that. And that's, okay. Okay, that's duplicative. Okay, we've struck if the application is submitted after the member returns to work, it will be denied. Is there a story behind that one, or is that an issue? Or you just
That was
thought it
just
kind of
in there,
makes some
that was in
sense?
there
So-
prior.
So you're envisioning somebody could submit an application afterwards and,
Oh, no, 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 no.
Or is
No, we struck, okay, I'm sorry. We struck that because it, right above it, it says it must submit. Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
no later than 4 weeks after the occurrence.
I think we thought it was in another section.
Well, and is it inconsistent with the sentence above it?
Yeah.
Because they must submit
Well-
the application no later than 4 weeks after the occurrence to be considered, which theoretically could be after. Return, okay. Explain the striking of the second opinion, or is that duplicative as well?
Oh, the second opinion, we were advised by our lawyer that if we, being the sick leave bank, and since the PA is the chair, if we required a second opinion from a doctor selected by the committee, that we might have to
You're
be
paying
the,
for it.
right,
Yeah.
so
Okay, yep, I get
we
that.
struck
That's-
that.
Are you really gonna send an email to somebody on the date their family member dies?
Okay, don't get me in trouble with other people.
I won't.
Look, I think,
The date of death is when it ends. Okay, we'll talk about it.
yeah, can we
well,
talk when the mics aren't on? No, I'm
No,
just
that's,
kidding.
that's okay. I'm sure I'll get a story. Okay. Any other questions?
Well, it doesn't say that day. It says the applicant will notify the chairperson and days granted will end on the date of death. And so even if they go 3, 4, 5 days, then they know that the sick leave days they were granted ended, and now they're in their own sick leave.
And I'm sure it's something we can put in the form letters to begin with if you're doing it
Yes.
for care of somebody.
So
They know
that-
in advance that
right.
it's gonna,
Yep,
okay.
absolutely.
Yes, and I've already talked, I went through this with the new sick leave chairperson and one of the new sick leave members. I sent an email to all of the new sick leave bank committee members and said, you know, coming up on negotiations, we've made some changes. If you want to go over it, I can come over today, I can come over tomorrow. And only those two said, you know, yeah, I'd like to know. So we also acknowledge that we want to look at the forms that are given and maybe add some of this language or add, you know, if they're going out to take care of someone, then they would get a form that says, okay, if you're given care for your mom and she passes away, then you need to notify someone, you know, within a reasonable length of time, so.
Okay. Have you looked at, again, I understand this is version 1. Have you looked at the negotiated agreement is about certificated employees, and clearly this is impacting both certificated and classified, and we have one bank that has both, which you know as well as I do is different day value, different usage history. Have you looked at any of that or thought through any of that? And it's okay for you to say no if you haven't.
No. I wouldn't even begin to know how to even try to separate them into two banks. It's always just been one bank.
That's fair. But you,
So-
I told
But-
you saying no is an
Yeah.
acceptable answer.
But I will say that was one of my questions when I met with the sick leave bank committee was, you know, certified staff should hopefully know if they have a question about something, it's in the negotiated agreement, right? Do classified staff have any kind of handbook or something like that? And they're like, no. And so Brenda and I talked that we talked about making a little pamphlet or a booklet about the sick leave bank and how you use it. And I've shared with you kind of a checklist of things so that, because it doesn't make sense to me that if I'm a classified person and I want to use the sick leave bank and I'm a member of it, then I have to go find the certified staff's negotiated agreement, find out how to use it.
I get that.
Probably I know who that is, but, so, yeah.
Okay.
So, and we got a version 2.
Well, I mean, the version 2.
Is it the same general language or is
It's,
it different language?
yeah, so this is just, if you don't want this is just take out the
worry
strikeouts,
about
but
that
we
yet.
want it to
Okay.
keep some. The blue is just the same thing without the pregnancy and childbirth line
Oh,
in there.
because that's in the appendix.
Yes, because I wasn't sure, so
Okay.
I wanted to cover my bases, so I did a
appreciate that.
separate one, but
I
if you don't
appreciate
want
that.
a separate one, then I will
understand
not
what it
give
is.
you a
We're-
separate one.
We got it. I got it. 2 bullet points, or 1 bullet point.
One bullet.
Yeah, okay.
So, that is all of our non-financial items.
Okay. Is it possible for me to get these electronically?
Yes.
I knew
You
that.
can write on them a little bit, it might make it easier, especially this.
You know,
Yeah.
you know as well
especially
as I
this
do,
one.
I write all over these things.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the end, you know, when we're tired and we can all write on it, I don't care. But at the beginning, if we're gonna, you know, at least try to make them somewhat close. Cool.
Yeah, I can they're all on Google Docs.
Okay.
I'll just share them with Brenda.
Mine?
Good. Okay, wonderful. Okay, let us go take a look at those. We'll come back with some of these probably quicker than others, and then I think, given that you had 2.1.4 in here, that's one that like I said, that's one that we want to talk about too
Okay.
as well, and that's that academic response.
Okay.
And I'm just going to state outright, I'm sorry we're having to address this section. You know as well as I do that some of the issues with regard to what people believe are appropriate laws in the state of Idaho are beyond my control, your control, et
Oh.
cetera.
Oh, yeah,
So, yeah, we just want to dot some i's and cross some
Yeah.
t's in there.
yeah.
So, yeah, you probably expected that anyway.
Do you guys have anything for us to look at?
That's our main one that
Oh.
we were, not our main one, like it's a big one, but that's one of the ones. And then the others, of course, deal with finances.
Okay,
And so.
well, then you know who to talk to about the finances
then
part. That's
just-
not me.
I just want to just double check. if
There's
there-
some, obviously, typo cleanups.
Yeah, little
there's
typo
Year
Yeah.
changes,
I
those
have-
types
yeah,
of
I have
things.
a
Yeah.
couple of
The
year
agreement.
changes like on the.
Yeah, and
So-
the time, yeah, and then
And-
I'll fix that
And
September
obviously, the
6th.
agreement that we add, the addendums B and C, like we always do.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a big deal. But, okay, can you give us 20 minutes to start with, and if I need more, I'll let you know.
Okay,
And you'll
make
share
it
those?
30 because I need
Okay.
to boot up my computer and
Oh, okay.
log in.
Okay, that's
Okay,
fine.
And then just
And
send it
then
to me.
shoot you the.
Sounds great.
Share those.
All right, sounds good. Thanks,
you.
Marianne.
Yeah.
Finance. I think that